Hello travelers and welcome to the new year. As always, I'm Bree Bazaar, your favorite tour guide. Thank you for joining me for episode 7 of my Viking Christmas Village. Today is a 2-for-1 special. We're getting a closer look at the Arctic wolf and the timber wolf. Buckle up and let's go! In the beginning, there was a fence. This little area is going to be filled with lots of new stuff. I want to have a viewing platform for the 2 enclosures, as well as some shops, another restroom, and some staff buildings. I filled it in with some paths and then began placing the first viewing area. This is the building we made in episode 3 for the penguin and seals. Go check that out if you want to learn more about baby Pesto. I won't be splitting the viewing platform in half this time, as the enclosures are going to be way too big. Instead, I'm going to place one on each side. Here I am trying to line up the walls to go underneath the platform so the guests can have a good look without the wolves escaping. This side is going to be our Arctic wolf side. Lining up the path is always a fun challenge. Now to do it all again on the other side. I really wanted to give guests the illusion that they were inside the wolf enclosure, and having the barrier open like this will help with that. We will do some fun terraforming later on that helps with this too. For this side, I decided to build the path and then move the platform on top of it. I think it worked a little bit better, but both techniques will get the job done. I connected the fence and added in the keeper gate to the Arctic side. This is our first terraforming stop on the tour, and we're gonna build a mountain in order to make these 2 different enclosures feel like one, and to hide the little village area from the rest of the town. I found the easiest way is to use the terrain stamps and build up some peaks and hills. Once that's done, I use the smooth tool to blend it all together and the roughen tool to add some texture. There's not really a strategy or a method to the madness, I just go with what feels right. It's a ton of smoothing and roughening, and if I can't get the look quite right, I might use the pull or push tool to bring a section up or down. It is important to keep the edges of the mountain really steep so that the wolves can't walk up it and then jump out of the enclosure. I'm going to make some tunnels that go underneath the mountain so guests can feel like they're inside a cave. This will further add to the illusion of being a part of the enclosure. To do this, I will use the flatten terrain tool that creates an upward gap automatically. I then place a path inside of the tunnel I just made, and now guests can actually walk there. All that's left to do is do it again! And through the middle. The plan here is to make a little area with a window so people can see into the reindeer enclosure as a fun surprise. I added a window to this section with glass and then worked the terrain around to get a wider path down. To add to the cave vibes, I painted in some dirt and rock and changed the path to stone. Step number 2 of the terraforming tour is to actually start working on the habitat. This site is of course going to be for the Arctic wolves, and Arctic wolves live in the icy islands between Canada and Greenland. Thanks to its isolation, the Arctic wolf is not threatened by hunting and habitat destruction in the same way as its southern relatives. However, this makes them very difficult to study, and very little is known about their possible migratory patterns. The only time wolves would be able to migrate in between the islands is when the ocean is frozen over during the winter. But winter in the Arctic also means unbelievable cold temperatures and polar nights. Polar night is a period of time where the sun does not shine at all. Total darkness for days, weeks, or months. As you can imagine, running an expedition at this time could be very unsafe. Having them in captivity gives viewers and scientists some really interesting opportunities. In fact, the Harbin Polar Park in China is a theme park, a bit like SeaWorld, that is currently home to an amazing Arctic wolf. In 2022, a firm known as the Synogen Biotechnology Company managed to clone a wolf in an experiment that was testing ways to save endangered species. The Arctic wolf, named Maya, was the only success of that specific experiment. I wanted to just touch on it now, but I'm planning to make a full video talking exclusively about her and the experiments because it's really wild. You can read about her in the description below. A lot of the research on the Arctic wolves comes from studying them in captivity within zoos or wildlife parks. In captivity, the Arctic wolf lives a similar lifestyle as it would in the wild. They usually live in large family packs. They eat, play, and sleep together. They're kind of just like really, really big dogs, and are sometimes even given dog toys to play with, such as the treat balls I'm placing in here now. Alrighty, back to the village with you. I'm placing down some of the important staff buildings so they don't have to go all the way back to the center. Another bathroom and some refreshment stalls for the guests. Everything needs power, so a solar panel should do the trick. People really don't like to see staff buildings, so I made the side of the path staff only. Hopefully that will work to keep guests kind of away from it. Something else I have noticed about Planet Zoo is that visitors do not like to travel a long way just to see animals. In order to draw people over in this direction, I'm going to use Hats Fantastic, one of the merchandise stores. Some trees will help make it look better and more festive. I added some picnic tables in order to make one really big long dining table and some covers to keep the snow off. Some of the guests have been complaining about the lack of benches and trash cans, so I placed plenty down for them here. A little ATM nook might also draw guests this way if they don't want to wait in the long lines at the other ones. To make this area extra cozy, I added in some heaters around the tables and ATMs, as well as some flaming Viking street lamps. For the entrance of this area, I copied the entrance of the viewing platform. It was here that I noticed that I'd forgotten to paint in the rest of the terrain needed in the Arctic wolf enclosure. I added in some dirt, rocks, sand, and snow, and just a little touch of grass. I even covered the mountain in snow as well. It's time to get some plants in here. I'm just going to use a few trees and some low grass shrubs. There's little to no vegetation in the Canadian archipelago, so there's no need to go crazy with the plants. Next, I set up the working zone to recognize the habitat and added the new staff buildings to the zone as well. Alright, our very first wolf has arrived. Looks like they actually don't like these pretty trees. That's alright, these ones will work instead. I changed the sign and information speaker to display the Arctic wolf, an animal talk show stand with a new tour guide, and a heater for good measure. On the other side of the mountain, I filled in the cave roof for the window and worked inside to level all the walls. Some cute wolf wall sculptures should help make it a little less gloomy in here, and you can't deny that these full body wolf sculptures aren't just really cool. And I think that's it for the Arctic wolf side. These animals really are beautiful, and I hope you learned something new about them. As always, donation opportunities will be listed in the description below. Alrighty, let's switch gears. For the second half of the tour, we're going to talk about the timber wolf. This is your typical wolf in the woods kind of wolf, and are often referred to as gray wolves instead. The timber wolf is the top predator within the United States and Canada, and people weren't always aware of their importance. The timber wolf was hunted and trapped nearly to extinction in North America, specifically in and around Yellowstone, during the 1900s. As it turns out, wolves are what are known as keystone species. A keystone species is what keeps the rest of the environment in check. They help control the population of consumer animals, such as deer and rodents, from overconsumption. The eradication of wolves in Yellowstone was terrible for the landscape and actually destroyed a lot of the beauty people wanted to preserve in that national park. Their reintroduction of wolves in 1995 brought Yellowstone back to life and is a beautiful story about the importance of keystone predators as well as the outcome of successful conservation. Now for some fun facts about these amazing animals. The gray wolf is not just gray. They come in a wide variety of colors from all black to all white, brown and red, and even some silver and gold. They are not only in North America, but can be found across Europe, Asia, and even some parts of Africa. This makes them one of the most widespread land animals on Earth. On a personal note, they are always a delight to see. Although I've never had the privilege of seeing one in the wild, I did get the opportunity to get really close to some. We got to visit some wolves in captivity, and in our group we had a medical alert dog who was fully unaware of the possible danger right outside the glass. We let all the wolves briefly greet her and then continued on our way as to not disturb them further. Back to our habitat. The finishing touch was to redo the fence and make it line up with the viewing platform. An animal talk show booth and a donation stand should just about do it. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today for our 2-for-1 special. If you're interested in helping out the Arctic wolf or the timber wolf, please check out the description below for donation opportunities. There's only one enclosure left, so be sure to tune in next week as we finish this series out strong. I hope you enjoyed today's tour, and if you did, be sure to tip your tour guide by liking and subscribing, and if you don't, I'll feed you to the wolves. Okay, bye!